morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity. Thank you for coming on such a beautiful day outside, but I know today we're going to have a discussion with Jack and I, and we're going to answer some questions that have come in about this tragedy that happened last Sunday, so that will be coming after the music today. But I want to let you know that we have Easter tickets available. They're free, but you do have to have one to be able to come to the production next Sunday. There's a service at 9 and 11, and you have to go in the bookstore and you have to sign your name to get the tickets for it. And we're almost out for the 11 o'clock, and we're getting there for the first service as well. So both services are a production of the Easter wonderful music and theatrics and all the stuff that we do. And it's so nice finally that the COVID restrictions have lifted enough that we can have some of our great singers back in our center. So it's a lot to look forward to. But we're going to just start with singing, and I'm going to invite my daughter Arenya and my mom Norma out. We've got all of our singers working for Easter and Good Friday, so we are the hired help today. Okay. Prepare ye the way of the Lord. Prepare ye the way of the Lord. Prepare ye the way of the Lord. Prepare ye the way of the of the room and start with a prayer and recognize that every moment is a holy moment, and believe the stresses and the worries of the world outside these doors, and gift ourselves this hour to contemplate and connect with this greater power, this greater love we call God, Spirit, Source, whatever word makes you feel divinely connected to this greater love. Father, Mother, God, we come together this morning to remember our true divinity with you. We are open and receptive this morning for the divine guidance that we are so open to receive through messages of animals or urges or just pings in our heart, ringing in our ears. We're open and receptive at this springtime to start birthing the seeds that we planted during the dark days of winter, so that we may become the unfoldment of the greatest version of ourselves. And we give thanks for this love in this time. Amen. And I'm going to invite Norma and Arenya back out here. And this song is just all alleluias, so sing along with us, Arenya and Norma. My mom disappeared. Yeah, go get her. It's like herding cats to deal with Norma, I had to be honest. I'm always looking for that woman, and this building is big, and there is no speaker system searching for Norma. Probably waste 4 hours a week on that, the searching of. It's fun. It's kind of like a little mystery. Where's Waldo? Where's Norma? Is it? Yeah. Okay.
Love for outdoor adventure with her husband Bill. In 1999, they planned an adventure that took Mary on a spiritual journey few have taken and returned to talk about.
My husband and I really enjoy kayaking. We enjoy traveling. We speak Spanish. We've traveled internationally a number of times. And so for my husband's birthday, I said, okay, this is the year we're going to do it. So we went to Chile for a vacation to kayak.
After a week of kayaking, Bill sat out the final day with a sore back. Mary and the rest of their group kayaked through a treacherous stretch of the river.
This is a section of river that's very well known for its waterfalls. These are drops of 10 to 15 feet, 20 feet maybe, which for an experienced kayaker is not a crazy thing. I went over the main drop, and as I crested over the drop, I could see the tremendous turbulence and tremendous volume. And as I hit the bottom of the drop, the front end of my boat became pinned. I and my boat were immediately and completely submerged. The volume and force of the water was such that I was absolutely pressed to the front deck of the boat. And I couldn't move my arms even back far enough to reach my spray skirt, let alone push myself out.
Mary was stuck. The only thing she could do was pray.
I very sincerely asked that God's will be done. And I meant it. I didn't say, oh, please come and save me. I really meant it. I asked for God's will to be done, and at the moment I asked that, I was overcome by a very physical sensation of being held and comforted and reassured that everything was fine, that my husband would be fine, my 4 young children would be fine, regardless of whether I lived or died. And I believe that Christ was holding me when I was still in the boat and was the one reassuring me.
After several minutes of searching, the group leaders realized Mary was trapped under the falls.
They came out on the rocks and they kept trying to get to the boat, but the force and the volume of the water was such that they just kept being flushed through. I mean, they just couldn't get to me. At one point, they sort of recognized that it was really turning into body recovery, not so much of a rescue. My body was being sucked over the front deck, and so what that meant is when it got to my knees bent back on themselves, and I could feel that, and I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I analytically was thinking, well, feels like my tibia probably broke, but I wasn't screaming. I didn't have pain. I didn't have fear. I didn't have that sense of ear hunger. I know I've been underwater too long to be alive, yet I feel more alive than I've ever felt. And this is more real than anything I've ever experienced. As my body broke free from my boat, I felt my spirit break free from my body, and I rose up and out of the river.
Mary looked down on the river as she left her body. Then, she was met by a group of heavenly beings.
They were absolutely overjoyed to see me and greet me, and I them. I knew that they had known me and loved me as long as I existed, and I knew that I had known them and loved them, and I knew that they had been sent by God. They began taking me down this exceptionally beautiful path that was brilliant, and they were taking me toward this great dome structure of sorts that not only was exploding with beauty and color, but it was exploding with this absolute love of God that was beyond anything I could ever describe or ever truly explain. And I could hardly wait. I was absolutely overwhelmed by this sensation of being home, of being where I belonged. But just as quickly, there was this sense of disappointment that descended on everyone. And the spirits who had taken me there told me that it wasn't my time and I had more work to do on earth and I had to go back to my body.
After what seemed like hours with her heavenly host, Dr. Neal returned to the river and watched as her friends recovered her body.
I could see my body being pulled to the shore, and I could see the guys start CPR. I felt like he was looking right at me and begging me to come back and take a breath. And I lied down and I was reunited in the middle of a very remote part of South America.
Dr. Neal had been gone for over 15 minutes, perhaps as long as 25. Certainly longer than medical science can explain her survival. She was flown back to the United States where she slowly recovered from her injuries. In her book, To Heaven and Back, she talks about how the reality of God's love has changed her for eternity.
All of the promises of God are true. God loves each and every one of us and really is there and is working in each and every one of our lives. That love is everything. If we truly could accept that, I mean, it changes everything. It changes the way you view every moment of every day. The fact that there really is life after death profoundly changes the way you approach every moment.
Good morning, y'all. So, this is Palm Sunday. We usually do a very special Palm Sunday service, but because of the tragedy that took place at King Soopers last week, we thought it might be more important to field some questions and discuss issues that are on the minds of people. We received a number of questions from people that are interested in finding out some things about life and death and some of the things that take place in the world that are just unseemly, but it's what we all have to deal with and seek to understand.
Put your mic on.
Your mic's not on.
Oh, okay. So it's something we all have to deal with and seek to understand. So that's what we're here to do. We're going to take questions. Should we start with it?
Yeah. We actually picked that video. It was interesting because we started to see the questions coming in, and I'm going to say this from reading the questions. There's a lot of upset about the gun aspect, and I don't think we should focus this entire time about the laws around guns and all of that, because I mean, I think we'll talk about it a little bit, but almost all the questions included that legal aspect. So we can go to the first one, but it is going to be covering that topic.
Okay.
Is there anything more important now than passing gun legislation? There are way too many reasons for why someone takes to mass murder to solve his problems. Mental illness, of course, sometimes a buildup of hatred at feeling lost, sometimes just sheer desperation and a really bad day. A lot of the time, we are never going to be able to predict a mass shooting and intervene in time, but at least we can prevent some of these murders if the murderers can't get their hands on a gun. No one needs an assault rifle. What is wrong with us if we can't even approve background checks?
I think that as much of a statement as it is a question. Mm-hmm. And people will find themselves on different sides of that issue. But for me, I'm on the side of the issue that I don't think it's a big imposition to have background checks on people that are going to buy guns, especially if they're going to buy, if you're going to buy an assault weapon, a military weapon like the AR-15s. I think background checks are not too much to ask a person to go through before you allow them to purchase that weapon. And I don't believe that we should have military-style AR-15s like that can fire large amounts of munitions in a very short period of time. I don't think they're necessary. I absolutely am for keeping guns, people allowing to buy guns, hunting rifles, shotguns, handguns. But I think that the extended magazines that now they can sell you, which can turn a normal handgun that carries 7 shells into a gun that carries 25. So I think that ought to be restricted. Definitely people wanting to buy those should be permitted to have a background check. And as the saying in this particular question statement goes, we're not going to prevent all the mass shootings that take place because of background checks or even restricting the weapons that can be purchased. But we might actually impede or stop 1 or 2, maybe just 1 or 2 a year. But any amount, any percentage that we stop or we interfere with or we are able to keep from happening, that's an advantage over this. So that's where I am, and I know that not everyone agrees with that particular point of view, because they have the idea that if they take away the assault weapons, then they'll come after your hunting rifles and your regular weapons. That doesn't seem realistic to me. There's no reason for it. Hunting is a meaningful sport to so many people, and I don't think that the government would want to interfere with that. But that's where people hang out.
And I have a feeling that most of you here are probably wanting a spiritual perspective on an act like this more than us focusing on what legislators are going to do about that topic. And obviously, we're probably all heated about that topic. We feel emotionally connected, and I think we've had, way before this shooting, this one just really brought it home because it's in our home. It's like they said, the Boulder bubble has been burst, and people have moved here because of the spiritual consciousness that exists in this town. We have created quite a mecca for us all to live in, and then we realize that even can be shattered in the midst of great consciousness. So, the next question I want to share, and it wasn't actually a question, it was a post that a girlfriend of mine put up on her Facebook, and I want to read this. This is just the bottom part of it. It was a really nice long post, but she's talking about her first time out to King Soopers and Gun Barrel after the shooting. This is near the bottom. She wrote, "So how do I control what happens to me and when I die? When have I ever been able to control what happens to me? I know I can't prevent my death when it's my time to go. If someone dies in a mass shooting, is that not their time, but cancer or a car accident or dying in your sleep is? How does a suffering, mentally ill human being who decides to take out his pain on other people with a gun play into the supposed be?" And that's Sarah McNaughton wrote that. And I sat with that, and I actually had my neighbors over on Friday and another girlfriend of mine, and we debated that topic all night. Because my neighbors are Buddhist, and I would consider myself all of the above, where all the religions agree. I super believe in karma and reincarnation and all those things. So I agreed with the Buddhist side of it quite a bit. But what do you think? Does it fit into, because we all most of us on a spiritual path recognize that there is a time for us to exit, and only this greater power knows when that moment is. And would the mass shooter also be in the same breakdown as a car accident, cancer, you name it? Was that your time to exit? And if you think about these people giving their lives to this shooting, what an impact this has had on our community, on our nation, and on the world. If you see how far this has gone, it's bringing up, like I was saying last Sunday in my sermon, you know, we are in a time of turmoil where the rug that has been hiding a system that does not work anymore, as far as equality, as far as sexual choices, as far as even identifying as a female or pansexual, or all of these things that it was black or white how we looked at things. It's not that way anymore. We're getting educated. We're becoming more aware that we have to educate ourselves on how we open our hearts more and more, so that there really is an all-inclusivity in this country and in this world, an awareness for this planet, everything that, as far as women's rights. Look at all the things that have come out from underneath the rug. So this is going to be another one that I feel will be taken seriously, which all the other shootings, you know, they said the Sandy Hook one, people just can't believe all those children died, and nothing changed in our legislation. But look at all the things that have changed in the last 2 years. All of a sudden, the truth is coming out, and honor is coming back. And yeah, it's looking uglier kind of now, but things always get worse before they get better. We are seeing some breakthroughs, especially with the women's rights, with men treating women equal pay, all of those things. The blacks being peaceful marchers about their lives mattering, and we're recognizing more and more how we have been segregating people, probably without knowing that we were, you know, and we're reading books, and we're learning how to become a more peaceful, all-encompassing, loving country, you know. So I feel like this is going to be taken seriously this time, because there's just something in the energy of the world. The COVID, all of those things that isolated us, made us be more protective and more loving for one another, wanting to be with each other, want to talk on the telephones, don't want to text so much. And then the other side of this, for me, is, you know, I always think, a big part of my spiritual work has always been about educating myself about the part of myself that never dies. That's always been the greatest fascination of this journey. And I think a lot of people, that's really a big part. Some people find their religious or spiritual practice near the end of their life because they want to figure out, where am I going? You know, it would serve us much more to get that earlier, because then it's not a distraction anymore, and we can super unfold into the light beings we're supposed to be here once we got that figured out and tucked away. You know what I mean? Like, we know where we're going, so we're at peace. And so I do believe it, even though it was such a tragedy, it was their time. There was something about those 10 people that were called to this message of the danger of guns. And, you know, it also comes down to, you know, did they have, it would be interesting to talk to their families. Was there any, like, predictions that they saw that there was some sort of closure that they did with their spouses or their children? You know, like, was there some sort of preempted feeling that something was coming? Because a lot of times you'll see, I mean, we probably won't get that behind the scenes situation, but doing so many memorials in my life and being at the deaths of people, they tend to close their lives without realizing that their life is about to physically close. Obviously, they're just awakening into the birthing of the next phase of living. So I mean, so I really liked what she wrote here, because I think a lot of people are wondering that. And that's my opinion. You can have your own opinion if it's not your time, or if it is your time, if a mass shooting was the thing that completed your physical life.
Well, when you get into the whole idea that it is your time to go, you're talking about a predestination. And that gets pretty squirrely. Because was that shooter predestined to do what he did, which is kind of nerve-wracking, at least. But if we look at life the way the masters of life reveal to us, the physical side of existence is not our whole life. And therefore, it is something, a process that we're learning from. And so it's not our whole life, so there's something else. And of course, I've got to bring up Edgar Cayce, who actually, one of the very few people in our modern times that walked in two worlds. And you have to give cognizance to someone. Edgar Cayce was capable of going into a trance state, and he could go and he could actually analyze a body, a physical body, that wasn't even in the same state or even in the same country. He could analyze that body and give information as to how to heal if that body was going through a particular challenge. But extraordinary things would take place even while he was doing that. He could tell you the color of the pajamas a person was wearing or the drapes in the room. When someone is capable of doing that and they checked up on it, and he did that with, doctors around trying to debunk him. He did it with legal people around trying to debunk him. If someone is capable of doing that authentically, then you should probably be open to what he has to say about life and death. And what Cayce said about life and death is that they're part of the same process, and at some point in the evolution, not of mankind necessarily, but in the evolution of a particular soul. And before I get to that, I should say, Edgar Cayce said that the soul, each person, each entity in the physical world was given a soul, so that each soul is seeking to understand its relationship to its creation and to its creator. And I suspect that that means that we're all on different levels of understanding. But on some level of understanding, our conscious awareness kind of rests or relaxes, and then we get intuitive or direct insight from the higher levels of awareness. And those direct insights, when they happen to us, indicate to us that we are not strictly physical beings that go around in life for 80 some or 90 some odd years in the physical body, and then it ends. The man that walked in two different places, he walked in the physical and he walked in the ethereal, and he read the Akashic record, and he did things that other people could not do and have not done under the kind of, scrutiny that he did them. Some people pretend to be psychic and do this whole thing, but Cayce did it and under the scrutiny of doctors and legal people. So he was an amazing entity. And what he is saying is that we are here for soul development. And when the physical body reaches that place where it's no longer part of the process of learning or serving in that respect, then it passes on. And it would have been interesting to have Cayce give readings about mass shootings. I'm not sure there's actually a single one, because in his physical lifestyle day, we didn't have the kind of mass murders that we have by people.
When we were at the peak of COVID going on, in the last year, I did a sermon where I was talking about, there's the people on the side of the aisle that don't feel like we should be wearing masks and the ones that want to wear masks. Now we're in the debate of if we should get the immunization or not. And there's just been so many things to divide people and separate people. And many people want to be right about their topics. So your Facebook is covered in this side. And I have both sides in my group of friends. And, I like to accept people for who they are and what they choose. And I choose what I choose. And I don't need to convince anybody otherwise. But during COVID, I would say to people, if you just get a hit when you're outside of Walgreens to not go in, don't go in. You've got these spirit guides, like she was talking about, these spirits that came to her as she was passing on, and she said she felt no pain. If anything, she felt better than ever. She wasn't fighting for breath while she's drowning underneath a river. And there's pure peace, and there's a sense of entities around her that are supporting her. She sees it as a picture of Christ as holding her, which, they say that we tend to see what was our spiritual curriculum as we grew up, what was in our actual mental and spiritual state is what will show up to us. So if she believes she's going to go to the pearly gates, which I think she did, that would be where she was going. Whereas I don't believe we're going to go to some separate heaven. I believe we're going to go through some training on the other side, and we're going to re-enter and do another lifetime of unfoldment and growing and all those good things. But with that said, she had peace. She had 4 small children. She had an incredible career to fight for. She had a husband. She had an amazing life, clearly, and yet had no regrets. She was at peace. It was time to go. But those spirit guides that she's aware of as she's slipping from her human life are around us all the time. We all have this guidance. We all have this energy. If you ever just are sitting and meditating, I use this as an example in one of my prosperity classes that I teach, to sit and ask yourself for your spirit guide to put their hands on your shoulders. And let's just do that. Let's just close our eyes and see if we can access what we have. Don't put your hands on the shoulders. Just visualize and ask your spirit guides to stand behind you and touch your shoulders. Ask your spirit guides to give you answers to any questions you have about this topic, which you may not get an answer right now, but to say that you're open to hearing it in urges, through your ears audibly, through a dream, so that you may find peace in the face of, to us, looks tragic. But if you had been there and possibly had peace through the whole experience, we're the ones that make things look so scary. It is very scary, and it's very awful what happened there, but your spirit guides are always trying to communicate with you. I know that they're communicating with me when my ear rings out of nowhere. You'll find the signs and symbols when spirit is saying, stop. Don't do that, or if it rings, I'll stop and go, what was I just saying? It might be validating I shouldn't be doing what I'm saying or not doing. And I have to follow my intuition and my instincts to realize that the universe is going, I'm getting your attention right now. This is needed at this moment. So you would get a hunch in a parking lot. I don't think I want to go into King Soopers today. I don't want to, right? It's heightening that part of yourself that's not the physical. It's the spiritual, as Jack was saying. That's what Edgar Casey's work was. He was showing us that we have a spiritual, ethereal body that also has a direct connection to these Akashic records, the story of life. That has the story of our entire lives. All of our lives are actually connected into a spiritual place. And we have access to all that knowledge from all those different lifetimes to be guided and directed, and yet so many of us still walk through life looking through the lens of human only. Reacting, anger, sadness, scared, all the reactionary emotions. Whereas to contemplate the part of us that never dies. There's a part of us that's gone through the process of leaving the body and coming back and doing this whole thing, and it's not alien to us, but from a human view, it is. It's alien to us from a human view. But when you meditate and you grow and grow more of that connection with the ethereal body, we are all at the core psychic. We are all at the core intuitive. We are all at the core. And so, I'm sure many of us, it's crossed our minds whether, now that we're lifting the colors of COVID, all these mentally ill people, oh my gosh, are they going to go all off the deep end? That's one of the things that has crossed my mind, is they've been so not taken care of. I mean, if you see our property during the week, there are so many homeless, mentally ill people in this town that are not getting the help that they need. It's a very serious problem. So to be intuitive as you're bringing your kids to school, I'm not feeling good about today. I think I'll take them home, right? I'm not feeling, because we're threshing out what happens when people have been in isolation for a year, too. And then you add mental illness on top of it. People that already had mental illnesses before this situation has exasperated it. And there's not enough help for them. So to be keenly aware that it's turbulent times right now, to be keenly aware that when you get a hit, I know I need groceries, but I could probably make this gross meal instead of going get, sacrificing, knowing, we're going to have bean sandwiches instead of bean burritos, you know what I mean? Like, accepting that it's not going to be the best meal of the day, but I'm not feeling like I should go to the grocery store today. I'm not feeling like I should get in a car today. You'll have situations where you get a sign, I'll get a flash that I thought I saw police lights in my windshield, and there wasn't any. I check my meter. Oh, I was speeding. When you live this path, the universe is constantly communicating with us.
I want to bring this back to when I did the series on near-death experience and all the testimonies that they did on videos and things like that. And then looking at the number of reports of near-death experience. Actually, they're probably close in the millions right now. But so many of them we don't hear about because they're not researched or anything like that. But almost without exception, every one of them tells about there being, ethereal beings there to greet them at the time of their departure from the physical body life. And I think that's something we should feel comfortable about, even with a mass shooting like this. While it's a terrible tragedy, I believe that these souls also were greeted and felt, that presence of love and caring, and they were greeted by those souls that down through the ages have been with them in their lives and loved them.
Family members that preceded them.
Right.
It's another thing, your dogs. I mean, when you really research, your buddies come to you, the ones that go before you. You get greeted by all of the things that's left you before you passed. It's really a powerful work when you educate the part of yourself that never dies. It will give you a peace. There's a great book that Deepak Chopra wrote about, I think it's educating yourself on the part of you that never dies. I think is the name of the title, something close to that.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
I got to bring up something about Deepak.
Be nice.
Well, okay. He said in the cover, it was Timeless Mind, Timeless Bodies, the book you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that.
Oh, I lost my cross. Ouch.
Yeah,
I got the pen
like
standing
that.
straight out.
Well, and that was all well and good when he was 25 years old and speaking here. Mm-hmm. But now he's got gray hair, too.
Right, so he aged.
There's no timeless body.
Well, Charles Fillmore played around with
Timeless
that,
mind.
too. He also thought that we would never die, the physical. So, There's always the strange stuff with all
Timeless
the,
mind is good.
yeah.
No. The concerns that we have are natural. Not what you're talking about is beautiful. With intuition develops. I mean, you develop intuition, and at some point, I believe that the human race actually evolves. I think there are human beings on dimensions living. I have to go through a whole bunch of stuff here, and I want to just take you through the information that has come through Edgar Casey. But what he talks about, that after death, you still have a physical body impression. And people that are not enlightened or intuitive or have not gained spiritual insight and expansion of soul awareness, they don't necessarily see that they still have this thing. But he talks about dimensions of consciousness. And there are dimensions of consciousness beyond this one, where human beings are still evolving. But I believe what is being intimated there is that on these dimensions of consciousness, we arrive at a place where the intuition, which we're working on here, on this level of awareness, the three-dimensional level of awareness, where intuition is something we're working to improve, expand upon. I believe it reaches a place on higher levels of evolution where you could call it divine empathetic intuition, where you actually are operating from telepathy. Telepathy is something that really does and can exist between human beings. So that I believe at some level, some people are advanced in this. They have telepathy. I don't think telepathy happens from an intellectual, mental level. It happens from an empathetic feeling level. I'll give you an example. You can walk into a room where people have just had an argument. They're not arguing now, but you walked in and you sense something. You just know something isn't right here. And you can get this feeling as well sometimes when, like Santishya's saying, you get a hit. Don't get out of your car in this neighborhood. You know, it's a neighborhood, but you're being... But there's something intuition, and it comes to a place where we can develop it to a place of telepathic communication, which actually, I believe, takes place on a feeling level, not on a mental, intelligence, intellectual level. But when you actually have empathy, a lot of empathy, and you start to feel for other things, this is when you're becoming sacred yourself. You become sacred when you feel for everything that lives and exists. You become sacred because your empathy has reached out now beyond your definition of yourself as a physical body strictly. Your definition of yourself is as a divine being, here to nurture, care for, and empathize with everything on this level of experience. And out of that, you see, comes what Jesus and the masters were attempting to get across to us. That we are all, in essence, one with each other. And we should not simply live these separate illusionary ideas of self being strictly one physical body. We have to live in this higher level so that we are, and Casey speaks directly to this. He speaks about being one with God, but not the whole of God. Having the attributes of God, but still knowing yourself as an individual, but an individual that is actually an expression of the attributes of God: love, forgiveness, peace, joy, healing, honor, integrity, consideration. That comes through spiritual practice, so that you're not in the world anymore as you used to be. You're still in the world, but you're no longer of it. You're of the divine. And that will lead us, and that is leading us, and will lead us. But I do want to say something. Some of the masters have said that the illusionary definition of life is so strongly ensconced in entities on the planet at this time that we're probably going to look or see a great breakdown, a great conflict in the experience, the human experience, before we actually transcend the limited definition of life, that I'm a separate body, mind in a world of separate others. It's the underlying error that is at the heart of all pain and suffering. I'm done preaching.
All right, I think we'll
That's fine.
complete there. I think that's
What?
good. Let's end there. We'll take
Thought
an
that was
offering.
pretty good?
Yeah, I think it was decent.
Okay.
Okay.
I got to step down a notch. Can I do it? No, you can't.
We had an experience. We were in Waco, Texas. We were going on our way to visit our son, Dell. And we stopped right at the edge of the town, and there was a great big
El
wall.
Paso.
It was El Paso. Oh, okay. It wasn't Waco. Okay. Thank you. And
See, did you see the telepathy there? Because I didn't know what town you were going to talk about. We started a lot of places.
Right,
Okay,
so-
but go ahead.
we never go to Walmart. I mean, I really don't like to go to the big corporate businesses. I always like to support the little people. But we went into this Walmart looking for something for a dog, wasn't it, for Kaya? But anyway, I walked into that store, and I had to find a bathroom, and I had to walk all the way around trying to find. I don't ask anybody, which would have been easier. I walked all the way around and saw every person that worked in that store, and I was in a state where I never do this, and I was focusing on the people and how few people were there. It was empty. It was empty. The whole Walmart was empty. And when we've got what we want, and when we cashed out, I joked with the person who was the cashier. I don't usually do that. Left. The next day, when we were in the motel, the news came on that exact Walmart was the one that had the shooting. But I was in an altered state that day. I just knew, and I knew the people, the cash registers, I knew different people. I never, ever focus on stuff like that. And I just, you just experience sometimes these altered moments. You don't know why it wasn't our time to be in that place at that time, but you did have an identity with the people that were there.
All right.
All right, we'll take an offering for unity now.
You going to do it, or should I?
You can do it.
Okay. We're still in the world as far as having to pay our bills. So, and every Unity Church Center is autonomous, which is really a beautiful thing, that there is no mother church that's dictating the mores that we have to follow. We follow, our guidance within ourselves, which is what unity is really about. So because we are so free to do that, we still are obligated to pay our bills, and the way we pay our bills is through the love offerings, the donations of those that attend here and get something from what we are doing here in this ministry. So with that in mind, I speak to you who are also watching this on a screen.
Did you bring me water?
These are the different ways that you can tithe to Unity of Boulder so that we can continue our ministry. We still continue we do our counseling and we do our spiritual work. We have classes and services. So let's just bring to mind whatever financial gift we feel comfortable giving to Unity to support it. And let's bless that financial gift in mind with this affirmative prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is.
So we're really going to sing the same song that we sang before we started the service and just connect with God and the warmth and the love of Spirit. Just really see this song moving in the hearts and the minds of all the people that were part of this tragedy, that experienced it, the family members, the friends. And let's just see them surrounded in light as we sing this song. And just know that Spirit's got them, taking care of them and helping them into the unfoldment of the unseen aspect of living. Amen. So that completes our service, and I'm feeling like I think we should sing "Let There Be Peace on Earth" today to close the service.
Okay.
Steve, do you have that somewhere on the slide, PowerPoint? No? Okay, cool. Let's all stand, and we're going to close with our closing song. Let there be peace on earth,
And let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as Creator, family
things. We have prayer partners right here and right there. And if you would like to share a prayer with someone, you have a particular challenge you want to pray about, just remain seated as everybody files out, and our prayer partners will come to you and take you down to our beautiful meditation room and share a prayer with you. And also, we have a kind of a fellowship. If you stay 6 feet apart, you can enter the fellowship hall, you know, and you can discuss and have conversation in there. And there was one final thing that I wanted to share.
Get your Easter tickets
Yeah,
as
yeah,
you leave. The bookstore is open right after the service.
Are we going to go to Kathmandu after the second service? All right.
Blessings.